An absolutely packed week to start off our first June edition here of Goz On The Go. All the sports talk you need, 30 minutes and less. Make it easy for you so you know all the takes and find out your takes as well. I want to find out your takes. Make sure you follow the show via social media at Tom Goz, TOMGOZZ on Twitter, Instagram, Getting There with Goz. If you're watching on our YouTube page, great. Leave a comment, subscribe. Love to hear your takes on the stories as well. We'll get shout out in future episodes. Facebook, search my name. I'm there. I'll accept you. Maybe you can even roll my DMs. I'm getting used to Facebook, man. It's getting weird over there. But I'd love to continue to hear your takes on the biggest sports stories. Make sure to follow us on social media so you can engage with the topics as well. And before we get into it, I'll give a shout out, some love to my guy, Connor Lind, continuing this great relationship with him. Now, you can do the same for yourself. If you're looking for insurance rates, insurance needs, the guy's Connor Lind over at Northeastern Insurance, a broker for the agency representing over 20 nationally ranked carriers from Progressive to Nationwide, Travelers, and more. He's going to review your coverage to ensure your belongings are properly protected, all while saving you some cash. Makes that process simple and easy. I know I'm working with him to continue to find out all the things in insurance that I didn't even know about before. And you want somebody who's going to be that hustler, that guy on your side who's taking advantage of the prices and the rates and everything else so you can take advantage of that and save some cash. Call him today, 518-346-2886. 518-346-2886. And that's Connor, CONNORL, at nemail.com. Again, Connor, CONNORL, at nemail.com. If you email him, how about a free, no obligation quote? Started as soon as today. Connor Lind over at Northeastern Insurance. Build that relationship with him. And when you connect with him, Goz On The Go. Hey, I heard about you. Goz said he worked with you, and now I can work with you? Yeah, it's as simple as that. Call, email Connor Lind today over at Northeastern Insurance. Now, let's get into it. All the sports topics you need, my takes, 30 minutes or less. Goz On The Go. Here we go. Let's start with the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks, for me, the best way to sum this up as we record here late after the Knicks lose to the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. Everybody has this type of friend they had in school, or maybe it was just that one assignment or one big test. But the New York Knicks, for me, have come down to my old pal back at Salve, my buddy Mike Martz. And I bring up Martz because of this, and it's a certain story we remember back in school when we took the U.S. history test. And they told us in big, bold letters, whatever you guys do for the essay portion of the test, do not write about the American Revolution. Whatever you do, do not write about the American Revolution. You will get no points if you ever write about the American Revolution on this test. Martz didn't get the note, or he didn't read. Sure enough, what did he do? He wrote about the American Revolution, and then when the teachers found out what they got on the test, Martz went up. I still remember this. Shout out to Mr. Mitchell over at Solly. Martz went up, and Mitch told him 65. And Martz celebrated. Let's go! 65! I passed! And Mitchell's looking at him like, what the hell are you celebrating about? You almost failed. He's like, I didn't fail, though. I almost failed, but I didn't fail. And that sums up the New York Knicks season. And you probably have friends like that too, who celebrated that C-, who celebrated just getting by. So I used to say in college, C's get degrees. It was just a few podcasts ago, right, where I told you how exciting Madison Square Garden was, how it was the best pro sports advantage of any team, and we ran through them team by team. Now it's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? You see the videos of the Knicks fans outside of the Garden, heckling the poor herders from Albany. It felt like Conor McGregor just won a big fight at the Garden like I was there years ago for. You beat the Hawks once in the first round. You probably now will think back and not even remember that game because it was the first round against the Hawks. And you lost the rest of them. But Knicks fan wants to celebrate on social media today and act like they won the NBA championship. They want to act like we're not embarrassing anymore. Right? It's sort of like the friend you take out to a bar who didn't get thrown out or beat up and didn't get that drunk. Look, you can do it. You don't have to embarrass us. It's a weird thing to brag about. If Knicks fans want to brag about not being embarrassing anymore, I guess that's the first step. You can't go from being awful and the worst to being the best that fast. It's a rare turnaround in pro sports. I wanted to root for the Knicks. I did root for the Knicks. I wanted to see them succeed. I wanted to see the Garden go crazy. But we have to have some type of reflection on this team and look and say, they weren't that good. These weren't fun games to watch. We had real conversations. I will fully put myself back in this mix of Julius Randle, where he stacked up in the MVP conversation. Was he one of the most valuable players in the NBA? Yeah, oh boy. Averaged 18 points, 11 and a half rebounds in the first round of the Hawks. Now, those two stats don't sound that bad out loud. What doesn't sound good is when you shoot 29% from the field. Ooh. Yeah, that's not as good. I don't even want to dive into the plus minus. Let's just say that 4.5 turnovers a game for a big guy is not exactly what you need. Oh, and 8 turnovers in that game 5 finishing loss. He never once looked like an MVP in this series. MVP. We're talking LeBron and Michael Jordan, and we can go through the names. You know the big timers when it comes to the NBA. Julius Randle was going to be in that conversation? Is it MVP in the same elite company? He stunk against the Hawks. The Knicks' future does look far better than it's looked in other off seasons for the New York Knicks. There's something you can hang your hat on, Knicks fans. The future looks really good. But you got to feel a little embarrassed that you're bragging and excited that you're not failing anymore. Just like watching my pal Marks put his hands in the air knowing he nailed that 65 on the U.S. history test, Knicks fan is celebrating that they won a playoff game and they're not in the lottery. Okay? I mean, if you're happy and you're going to have a good summer, there you go. Marks didn't have to go to summer school. Knicks fan doesn't have to care about the lottery. Let's just hope you don't make mistakes like you made in the past and the team gets better and you have something more exciting to celebrate the next time you get tested come this time next year. The Naomi Osaka story is the most fascinating story of 2021 in sports. This is different. It's interesting. There are so many layers to this, and I won't spend a half hour or 45 minutes when I really could talk about how different this story is. But for those who don't know, just a quick refresher, a dominant young tennis player decides she's not going to talk to the media at the French Open, one of the majors. Roland Garros' spot there, the committee says, we're going to fine you $15,000. And she says, okay, I'm leaving. Bye. See ya. I'm withdrawn from the tournament. I'm not going to handle this. We've seen these back and forths in 2020 and 2021 with the media versus an athlete. Kyrie Irving, one of the trendsetters of this, of course, Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I won't get fined. Different ways in which athletes have handled the media in the past. But this one is far different than anything else we've seen before, where an athlete, and not just an athlete, but one of the most recognizable and noticeable single athletes, and I'm talking about individual sports, has decided to move away. This is the same athlete who was very vocal politically back in 2020 about things that were happening across the world, and she had no problem in showing that in some of her ways in which she took the court. Here's why this is extremely fascinating, though, because it's not so much about the mental health side of it and the real value of media versus that, which there is, of course, media to that. I want to focus in on what I feel like people have ignored about this story and the true definition of challenges when it comes to dominant athletes. For those who have maybe missed this story, what happened on Reddit plays far more into this than even the national media has led onto this. And if you don't know this story, Naomi Osaka's sister had gone to Reddit and explained exactly what she had heard had happened. That's right, the sister of Naomi Osaka. And she had said that a family member had come up to Naomi Osaka before she had gone to the French Open and told her she's not good on clay. She's not a good player on clay. And for whatever reason, that comment struck a chord with Naomi, and it put her, again, according to her sister, in the wrong headspace, the wrong frame of mind for the tournament, and she was startled and scatterbrained and everything else going into it. She had this doubt that she might lose and not be good enough because she hadn't played well there. This is not to be mean to Naomi Osaka, because her sister later apologized and said she screwed things up, and I'm cleaning that part of it. But this idea that she was going to be challenged and someone told her that her sister might not be good at something, no shit. Like, honestly, like that's how I felt when I read that story. And that's not to be insensitive to Naomi Osaka in any way, but there are 3 athletes that jump to my mind. Her, who turned 16 and was a professional tennis player, where she has dominated at every single level. She has always been the best player on the court. But now when a challenge of somebody saying she might not be good enough, that doubt creeped into her mind, and all of a sudden she said, I don't want to answer questions about that. I don't want to be here. We've seen dominant athletes get so tested and so mentally confused by challenges in their careers that the overall toughness, if you want to go old school with this, you wonder why an athlete can't handle it. Some athletes have to be so dominant so often that they cannot accept losing or any type of failure that they can't control it. Two that jump out to me besides Naomi. Vince Young. Vince Young was, and you can still find these sites, arguably the greatest high school quarterback prospect ever. Run through Vince Young's rivals and everything else where they ranked Vince Young. Arguably the greatest high school quarterback ever. And what does Vince Young do? He goes to Texas, and he becomes one of the most legendary college quarterbacks of all time. Leads the Texas Longhorns to a national championship in an epic game against USC. And it's not because Vince Young was threading the needle and throwing for 6,000 yards and everything. Vince Young was a flat-out better athlete than everybody else, just like he was in high school. He became that same type of athlete in college and just out-athleted people. But what happened when he hit Tennessee? A lot of people pointed to Jeff Fisher saying that he wasn't a good coach. That was the fault. But what really happened is that Vince Young couldn't be the dominant athlete that he was before, and he didn't know how to handle it. He didn't know how to handle losing. He didn't know how to handle not being the best player on the court, the field, the ice anymore. And that was the biggest test for him. And you can go back and look at some of those things. Vince Young has been quoted talking about the struggles he had early on because it wasn't easy for him anymore. It wasn't fun for him anymore. A lot of things are fun when you can dominate and be the best. This is a very kid reaction. Remember when kids would play games and all of a sudden they start losing and they try to change the rules or don't want to play anymore? Have you dealt with a niece, nephew, somebody like that? Sometimes athletes can be challenged as well. And the other one that jumps out is Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods has been the best golfer out on the course for as long as he's lived because his legendary father, Earl Woods, pushed him to that level. But what happened when Tiger found the success? He changed. And this is covered very well in the HBO documentary. Armin Catane and that staff did a great job talking about the evolution of Tiger Woods, that once he had the success, it changed him. And he became a different person. But what really confused it is when his father passed away and this idea that he wasn't the best anymore started to change. Go through some of those quotes that Earl Woods had about his son. Basically, the savior to golf. But all of a sudden, when someone's not hyping you up like that and you think you're that good, how do you mentally react to something like that? We've seen the fallout from Tiger Woods post that. I am not underplaying the mental health of Naomi Osaka. I understand that her role in athletes going forward is going to change, especially in that relationship with the media. But let us understand also that there are some dominant athletes who, when they get challenged for the first time in their lives physically or mentally, they may not have developed a way in which to handle that. And if you ask me, oh gosh, how should they handle that? I can't answer that. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell you word for word and way in which way was the best for them to handle that. But I know an old school sports fan would say, I think you're going to lose this game. I don't think you're good enough. I think you should be criticized. Athletes used to handle that and find ways to overcome that adversity or that criticism. Now when a family member says you're not good on clay and your sister posts about it and she has to take it down and then she takes off out of the tournament, what's going to happen next? You have to overcome some of those things. And maybe Naomi Osaka, next time she speaks to the media, she will talk about the ways in which she was really tested. But my fear and my prediction for the future of some of these athletes, and you may know this depending on how old you are listening to this, is that the athlete in 2021 is far more coddled than the athlete in 1991, 2001, or 2011. You now, without the media, can present a story however you want it. Look at Derek Jeter's Players Tribune. That was going to be the voice of the athlete. What it turned into instead was a public relations dream. I'll post the story however I want to post it, and look how good I'll look. I'll hype myself up. I'll do. That's not real. That's not authentic. That's not what people came to see. Why the media has always worked well in sports, we'll use two recent examples that have really made the media story into a great thing into the game. How about things like Pedro Martinez's quote about the Yankees are my daddy, or Mark Messier guaranteeing a victory, or Joe Namath guaranteeing a victory, Monte Teo's story about his fake girlfriend. All those storylines became storylines that made the games far more engaging because of answers to the media. That's why the media helps sports and the storylines build. But I think a lot of athletes, when they're not real and authentic and only want to present you as a winner and never want to talk about a loss, people will not relate to those athletes and the fans will see right through it. I'm fascinated to see how Naomi Osaka handles the media going forward. And if athletes and fans will embrace her for her mental health or start to wonder, does she only want to do things on her terms and she never wants to be challenged if it's not in her way? Mike Krzyzewski, Coach K, is retiring at the end of the season as the head coach of the Duke basketball team. Coach K, look, I could sit here and do, where does Coach K rank amongst the all-time great coaches? Is he on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball? I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I want to dive, because we'll do the legacy at some point for Coach K. But aren't the farewell tours a little much? Aren't they? And especially this. Because when you do the farewell tour, you want the gifts and everyone to say how great you are. You want the video package and everything else. John Shire, by the way, shout out to him. Very cool guy. I got to interview him. Providence 2016. He was the one who had to figure out who was getting what meal, like pizza in a box. John Shire went from the guy who dealt with the post-game meals to the head coach of the Duke basketball team. Remember how loaded that staff was 5 years ago? Shire worked his way up, so shout out to him. But what I'm more fascinated by with Coach K, and I think the fun storyline is this. He thinks he's going to get this farewell tour where everyone says how great he is. He coaches Duke. He's going to get booed out of every arena he goes to louder than ever before. With college teams, and especially college fans, those young students who didn't get an opportunity to be a part of the college experience to boo Duke, and now they finally get that chance when hopefully things continue to be normal when college basketball gets back. Those cheering sections, yeah, they might cheer him in the pregame, but after that, it's Boo City, man. And if you're going to be the villain and take this side and try to get the hype up, look how great I am, farewell tour, I hope the fans boo him out of the building. I do. Look, Derek Jeter, we just touched on him a little bit earlier. He was a New York Yankee. He made the Players Tribune. I know some fans cheered him. Big Poppy David Ortiz. But this is still sports. If you want to boo your rival, if you want to boo an all-time great in a team that's beat you before, go right ahead, because that's the fun, competitive part about it. I hope Coach K embraces the boos as he goes around for this farewell tour, because it is still Duke basketball, and because they've become so good, people hate how good they are. And that's a compliment. That's a good thing. When you're so good at something that people get jealous of your success, good for you, Coach K. Wonderful. Also, besides the fact that now it's added Roy Williams and Coach K to the coaches that are no longer going to be on the sidelines, did you, as a New York basketball fan, think of the same person I did? Syracuse basketball fan, huh? Did you think of old Jimmy Boeheim? When's Coach Boeheim going to hang it up? I'm not pushing him out the door. Syracuse had another great run in the NCAA tournament. It's become their thing over the last decade. Get in as a double-digit seed and make a run playing zone. I want to say it seems likely that he's going to retire once Buddy Boeheim and Jim Boeheim Jr. graduate in that same season. He'll be done. Why would I believe that, though? Like that's been a rumor for years at Syracuse. But maybe he just won't. Maybe he's just going to coach till he's like 85. Remember Paterno did that and Bobby Bowden did that? There have been coaches who, Hugh B. Brown's going to be 90. He's 88 and he's commentating the NBA. I would guess that Coach Boeheim would retire, but I love how people are acting like they're shocked. Like, breaking news, Mike Krzyzewski retiring. He's old. Like, Roy Williams is old. These guys are old. If they want to retire, it should not be a shock that they're stepping away from the game. What more do they have to accomplish? They've won national championships. They're literally in the Hall of Fame. I feel like when you get to the Hall of Fame of something, that's when the career ends. Hey, I can no longer achieve anything else in my career. I've got the most wins. I've got the championship. I got the court named after me. So any point after you've reached the Hall of Fame or something that you're actually coaching on is named after you, I don't think it should ever be a shock that you're retiring. But Coach K retiring caught people off guard. Good for him. I hope it's a boo fest. I think he's a great coach. It's him and John Wooden in the conversation as the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. I just hope it's not a love fest for Duke. I think Coach K would embrace the boos. He wants to continue to be loved by his fellow coaches and media members, and he's already got that love. But I hope the fans continue to boo him on the way out in the nicest and most competitive way possible. I still can't believe I saw these actual tweets from people. I don't even want to call them out because at this point, I've seen so much nonsense on social media this past week that's actually confusing me rather than getting me excited. And that involves this Lakers-Sun series. So back in May, I gave you my NBA Finals prediction. I went with the Nets and the Clippers, and I don't love that pick anymore. I do like the Nets because they just can't stop scoring with those three. But I really, truly wanted to pick, like if I picked with my heart over my head, my heart would have told me Sixers Suns, because I'd like to see the Sixers go and make a move and beat the Nets, because I don't like the Nets as their villains, and guys like Harden and Kyrie and Durant drive me nuts with some of the stuff they say off the court involving their lack of interest in basketball at times. And I wanted to see the Suns with the Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. I thought it'd be fun to see those guys get the finals. That's a heart pick. But the head pick told me Clippers because of talent and the Nets because of talent. And the reason I didn't pick the Suns because I couldn't believe that they were the favorite to get by the Lakers, and they weren't. And the reason they weren't is because of LeBron James. Simple, easy as that. LeBron James has been to what? 9 NBA finals? It's hard to even keep track at this point. I think it's 10. Is it 10? I think it is 10, right? So it's got like Cavs, Heat, Lakers. 10 NBA finals. What? He's 4-6? 2 with the Heat, 1 with the Cavs, 1 with the Lakers. That stat out loud, as I intentionally sort of stumbled through it, is because of the greatness of LeBron that it's actually hard to keep track when you're trying to pop it off the top of your head. But the respect that we give LeBron James is that he's LeBron. He does not lose in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And that's what I thought. I'm like, you know what? The Suns are better than the Lakers. The Suns can shoot better. The Suns are a better passing team. If the Lakers have one injury, they might be in trouble. Sure enough, Anthony Davis got hurt. I didn't think he'd get hurt, but it just made sense. They weren't as deep as Phoenix when it comes to what they can actually do on the court. But because it's LeBron James, because it's never happened before, I said, doesn't matter, it's LeBron. Doesn't matter, it's LeBron. That's the respect that he's gained throughout his entire great career. Lakers are done. They're done. And for those saying that this is a career-defining game for LeBron James, to quote Stephen A. Smith, shut the hell up. No, it's not. What are we talking about? I see this stuff that, like, LeBron won't be the GOAT anymore if he loses in the first round. Oh, my God, guys. The guy just won an NBA championship last season. The guys, you heard the stats earlier. I don't need to run through the LeBron stats. But the thought of, well, Phoenix might be able to beat the Lakers. Phoenix was the best team, arguably, in the Western Conference besides Utah. And Utah's smacking around Memphis now, and the Grizzlies put up a good fight. But Phoenix was a better team. And even I fell victim to that trap. I picked player over team, then team over team. There is only one athlete in all of sports, and it's been like this for the last close to 15 years, where you can have a conversation of, is this guy better than the team he's playing against? Remember the old Saturday Night Live sketch where the Bears, they had Michael Jordan as a guest, and one of the guys asked Michael, don't you think it's unfair you're playing these countries with 4 teammates? Can't you just beat them by yourself? That's what it felt like with LeBron. I know the Suns are better than the Lakers, but you're still on the team and you're 18 years into this thing. Can't you just beat them by yourself? It is not a career-defining loss if the Lakers go down to the Suns. Eventually, at one point, as we just talked about with the coaches in college basketball, guys do age. Guys can't do it all by themselves. It was a compliment to LeBron. And I know it's a tired storyline for some, like, oh, it's only LeBron's credit when they win and it's not LeBron's fault when they lose. That's not it. It's that we can accept that one player in one team can be worse than another team. This is still sports. It can still happen, even with a guy like LeBron James on the court. Phoenix is going to win this. And if you're thinking about now picking a team to go deep, why not the Phoenix Suns? With everything they can do on that court, with that Mavericks-Clippers series still tight, with the Blazers and Nuggets going deep into the night with some of these back-and-forth games, and Utah finally pulling away from Memphis, why not Phoenix? Maybe we'll get an exciting game. Maybe the Lakers can come back, but the uncertainty of Anthony Davis scares me, and I don't think that's a possibility. I think Phoenix continues to roll. AEW, man. All Elite Wrestling was fun. Double or Nothing this past weekend. So shout out to my guy Greg out in Utica. He hits me up. He's like, what are we doing for Double or Nothing? I wanted to get out to Utica, but I'll just say my in-laws stayed a little longer than I thought. So I couldn't get out to Utica. Shout out to my guy Vinny, the traffic guy. Miss him. I know he's out in Utica doing great things as well. I wanted to do the road trip, have a bunch of Utica pizza and drink and all that stuff. Didn't make it. I may have found a unique way to watch the pay-per-view. Now, my dad watched it. Greg watched it. I think his dad as well. So, I couldn't watch it live because I was doing stuff with the nieces and in-laws. But, if you go on YouTube, there's a thing called the highlights where they just speed it all up. I watched 90 minutes of that through the highlight version, which I don't know if that's legal or illegal, but it's on YouTube, so that's how I watched it. It is a fun show. We can break down the technical stuff, and I've mentioned this on a few podcasts before, but it's still one more time for recommendation. Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray Dudley do a great job on Busted Open and talking about like the more technical stuff and all. I love it. I think it's great. They rip AEW sometimes for the nonsense that is the matchmaking, storytelling, and the lack of officiating. Is it okay if I don't care? Like, I just don't. I'm just so entertained by these guys. If you want to call it a spot fest, if you want to say that there's not enough actual old school wrestling, yeah, I don't care. Guys are jumping off stuff. They're entertaining. The crowd's super into it. I love the Battle Royal, basically, or the Casino Royale, whatever they're calling it, where Jungle Boy wins and the crowd's singing his theme song. Thought that was an amazing moment. The Stadium Stampede stuff is interesting, but I can't stop watching. Urban Meyer makes an appearance. Kenny Omega, some argue he's the best in the world at what he does. I like him as a heel better than the face, right? The bad guy better than the good guy. And I think Don Callis is hysterical as manager. I think he's great. Those two should always be together. The star of AEW, though, is Britt Baker. DMD. The biggest criticism for AEW is that their women's division was nowhere close to the WWE's women's division. But Britt Baker and the stuff she did during the pandemic where she tore up her knee and she was rolling around in the wheelchair doing those workouts and she was calling her manager Reba instead of Rebel or Rebel instead of... I forgot her name because she sold me so well on it. And then she goes out and wins the title. The stuff she did with Tony Schiavone, where there are certain people, whether it's radio, television, wrestling, that you cannot teach chemistry. Those two are a great comedy duo, and they're super talented. Britt Baker became the star that weekend. She is a star, and if someone said, Goz, who's your favorite person on AEW? I know the veterans. I know some of the big names. But if you told me I got to watch a match, Britt Baker's the person I want to watch. Thought Double or Nothing was a lot of fun. Excited to see AEW start touring again. Daily's Place has become a far better version of what ECW used to be. And actually is less hardcore and better wrestling and better athletes. AEW continues to do well, which leads to the point about their competitor, the WWE. And that story involving the WWE is the cuts of these popular superstars. Braun Strowman, gone from the WWE. Aleister Black, Lana, Ruby Riott, Murphy. Just to name a few, and as of this taping, those are the names that are out there now. Who knows? There could be more added by the time you listen to this podcast. I get confused. We've talked about the finances of the past of how AEW continues to add people, but the WWE continues to have to cut people. Look, both have the same situation going on with live shows, that AEW wasn't traveling. Neither was the WWE because of COVID-19, but somehow the Khan family's that rich where they continue to spend more. You can't say, well, AEW's got a TV deal because so does WWE, and they actually signed $1 billion deal with Peacock. Something's not making sense here. If it's flat out that the WWE overspent, it's a business decision, okay, I guess. That sounds kind of cliche, and it's not giving me enough info, and the sports media guy in me feels like I'm missing something. Is it that they want to make Raw 2 hours? Because Raw stinks and it's terrible. It's really hard to watch. It posted one of its lowest ratings of all time this past Monday, like under a 2 hour in hour 3 at 1.9. Well, shortening the show also doesn't make sense because if you have a 3-hour show and you're getting 3 hours worth of advertising, why would you say no to money? So shortening the show doesn't make sense. And if the USA Today can find something that's going to outrate Raw, as people like to complain, like, you should put something for 2. What are you going to get? Law and Order reruns? Going to bring back Rizzoli and Isles? Like, what does the USA think's a better option than a Raw at that time slot? So that doesn't make sense either. Is the WWE going to get sold? Is Vince McMahon going to sell the WWE? As crazy, as insane as that thought is, that the man behind it all, the guy who created, that made the WWE a regional company to a national company, might be considering selling the company. Is it too, like, even saying it out loud, I struggle and think, why would he? Well, maybe he lost far more money in that XFL botchery. Now, again, COVID-19 has a play in that as well than we ever even realized. Maybe he doesn't want to hand off the company to Triple H or Stephanie McMahon. Maybe he wants to cash out, or possibly the Peacock deal is just too much. Or Nick Khan, if you don't know who that name is, he's one of the most powerful agents of all time. Remember, Nick Khan was signed by the WWE 6 or 12 months ago. Jamie Horowitz, breaking news that he is now a part of the WWE. These are some heavy hitters, executives that are now a part of the WWE team that's looking for ways in which they think WWE can be different for the future. If I'd honestly guess, do I think the WWE is going to ever get sold by Vince McMahon? I would tell you no. However, if you're clean out roster space, Peacock's giving you $1 billion deal. Your television shows aren't as good. There's more focus on digital. And Peacock said, we're going to give you $1 billion for the rights of your video, but we're not going to buy it, but we're going to air it on the USA Network. But you're still on Fox for SmackDown. Stuff is not making sense. It can't just be financial reasons. Something else is going on in the WWE that all these superstars are getting cut. The selling of the company is the best solution I can come up with, but it doesn't make, to me, a ton of sense. The only other option is that they feel like the young talent in that lost. The only other thing that makes sense is they believe that talent in that roster is young and cheaper, and they think they can get the job done. That sounds like the workforce in 2021, right? Young and cheap. Young and cheap. Maybe the WWE has that same mindset. I'm not shocked that the guys got cut. This is a part of the business. We've been doing this for what? Since COVID-19 back in April. This is like the third round of cuts by the WWE. I'm not shocked by it. But it seems as if the company's just going in a different direction. And with more competition out there than ever before, it seems as if the WWE is truly being threatened by AEW. Ooh, let's toss that theory out there before we get to our next segment, huh? Is Tony Khan trying to buy the WWE? Does Sean Khan have far more money? Are we about to watch it's McMahon on the contract, but it doesn't say Vince, it says Shane? Is AEW trying to buy the WWE that fast? I don't think so. But boy, something strange is going on that I'm still struggling to completely figure out what's happening in that company. And let's close out for our bets for the weekend. The Belmont Stakes this Saturday. That's what we're wagering on this week. By the way, I'm saying hot on the NBA. Am I 5-1 now in the NBA? How about that Celtics bet, baby? Money line over the Brooklyn Nets. I like betting on college football and college basketball and the NFL. I'm starting to realize I'm not as good or anywhere close to being as good as those three sports as I am at the NBA. So maybe that's the future next winter. NBA only for Goz. Oh, I did that the other day too. Tried to wager on a hockey game. Got 1 for 1. 1 for 2, I should say. Just stick to the NBA. Anyways, I'm not doing that this week. So there you go. I'm not listening to my advice. Belmont Stakes, here's what we're doing. 273. $9 bet. I just changed it. I wrote 8 in my notes. $9 bet. 273 straight. I call that the old Dixon bet. For my bachelor party 3 years ago, I was at the Belmont. My buddy Dixon, straight ticket, hit the try 9 times, didn't box it. I think for the tradition of Dixon, I'm going a $9 straight ticket, 273, but I'll also do a $1 box, 273. I should probably say the name of the horses there. Essential Quality is the 2. Essential Quality is just far better than Rombauer, who I nailed in that trifecta. Essential Quality is just better. Go watch the Bluegrass Stakes where Essential Quality and Highly Motivated are battling back and forth. Rombauer's a good horse, just not as good as Essential Quality. Essential Quality did not run in the Preakness. If you watch the overall performance by Essential Quality, it's just better. It's just a better horse. There's nothing else I can't add anymore. Faster, quicker, better rider, better overall trip. And when it comes down for a longer course like the Belmont, Essential Quality will win. Rock Your World coming at the 7th spot. So there you go. I got Essential Quality 2, Rock Your World 7, Rombauer 3. So guys, why are you putting Rock Your World 7? I think Rombauer is going to try to fight with Essential Quality down the stretch. And Rombauer is just going to run out of gas. And then at the end there, he's going to get caught by Rock Your World. So 273 straight ticket, 273 $1 box for $6. I think Essential Quality is going to roll over everybody. It's probably going to be 4 or 5 lengths. So just fool around, do a $5 win bet on 2. And you know me, love doing my wheel bets. I got a $3 wheel, which is going to cost you about $21, 2 overall. Maybe a long shot pops in there, but I'll hit the trifecta, and then I'll hit the superfecta, and then I'll hit the exacta. I'm probably just going to hit the exacta in the try, though. Again, that $21 bet is basically just the exacta 3 times, and it'll work. All right, so there we go. 273, 2 overall, $2 win. Essential Quality all day long at the Belmont. Just a flat-out best horse in the race. There you go. Goz On The Go. The first week in June had a lot of fun there. Oh, by the way, one other thing. Across the street pub. Shout out to everybody over there. Got some really cool things coming up this summer. So for more information, make sure you, again, get in there with Goz on Instagram, at Tom Goz, TOMGOZZ on Twitter. Big Hair Energy, by the way. Remember, toss on that Apple review, getting hooked up with some gear, and don't forget to listen to all the other Godzilla Media podcasts for your chance to win Big Hair Energy gear. We're doing it throughout the next week or so. Make sure you find out all the great ways you can win some gear. Till then, enjoy the Belmont, enjoy all the great sports action. A great way to start off June, and we'll talk again next week.